Hi, so we're going to go ahead and finish the introduction to the Doctrine and Covenants in this video. And so we left off last time just highlighting a bunch of different doctrines that are going to be brought up in the Doctrine and Covenants. And so this time, let's go ahead and jump to paragraph 9. And it starts out that early saints were so excited to have the revelations that they would sometimes copy them down so that people could have them. Because for a long time, for many years, they weren't published in a book anywhere. And so if a saint really wanted to teach something to somebody else, they would have to handwrite it down. I hope that by the time you're done with your study of the Doctrine and Covenants, or even right now you're thinking like, what sections in the Doctrine and Covenants do I love so much? I would handwrite and copy those down so somebody else could have them. Then the rest of all of the introduction, except for a few paragraphs of testimony, they deal with all of the different editions of the Doctrine and Covenants and some of the errors that have been corrected, which is great. Yes, this book is very open about the errors that are in it, and that there needs to be correction of it. All right, so then you've got a testimony of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. That when this book was published, they have their testimony. And the 2 paragraphs are really neat. You can look at them and that has a list of their names. Now, I would encourage you to go look up some of these guys and their historical events and what happened to them. Most of them, in fact, only 3 of them remain faithful their whole life. Many of them left the church, or there had periods where they had a rough relationship with the church. Some were excommunicated or lost their membership. Some left the church. Some then came back and returned. As you look up information on each one of these, you would have a fascinating understanding about what really happened. And it's complex. It's not so simple, which is really interesting because then we start to think about how much emphasis is put on gaining a testimony. And then we think, but here are a group of guys that they bore their testimony to the world about the importance of the D&C and wrote it down, and yet many of them fall away. So maybe a testimony isn't the thing we're really after. Well, what would it be then? It might be something like the second part of the book's name that we're studying this year, the covenants. Here's a list of people who bore testimony, and now you can examine their lives for how they kept their covenants, or how they struggled with covenants, or how they broke their covenants, how they renewed their covenants after they broke them or regained their covenants. It's a fascinating thing. And this book, the Doctrine and Covenants, it's not just about doctrine, things to believe. It's about covenants and tying ourselves to the things we believe and changing the way we act. That's what this book demands of us.